Kev here from Real Fit X. Today I want to talk to you about active recovery. Active recovery is exactly what it says on the tin. The idea is that whilst you're recovering, you can do something that is active or do some activity that's going to improve you, but doesn't take away from that primary lift, from that main thing that you're doing. So it's recovery at the same time, it is improving you at the same time. Three main benefits that you're going to get from active recovery, nice and simple. The first one is that your workouts are going to be much faster. Obviously our goal at Real Fit X is to ensure that our workouts are as efficient as possible. We want to be in and out the gym in 30 to 45 minutes maximum. So to do that and to make sure that we get that right, we add in active recovery and it allows us to do more work in that same space of time. So it's much more efficient, it gets the results that much faster. The second one is it allows you to attack two goals at the same time or feed two birds with one seed. So rather than just concentrating on the strength movement or the muscle building movement that you're doing, throwing a bit of active recovery that may work on mobility or rehab or some accessory stuff, as we'll talk about in a second, can be the game changer in terms of fixing another goal at the same time as trying to still get stronger. So you might be, lacking in mobility. You can throw in your active recovery that's going to get you more mobile, but at the same time still get good at squatting and pressing and pulling and all those other beautiful things that we can do at the same time. The last thing is that it will give you the results much faster. For example, that mobility thing, if you were to throw it in your rest times, you would actually find that after 4 or 5 weeks of consistency with it, your mobility will improve much faster than if you try to do separate programs and try to fit them all in at different times. You generally won't get that done. So the best thing to do is if you can throw it into your active recovery, it will actually get those results much quicker. The 3 rules you want to follow with active recovery and the things you really need to look into. Number 1, don't use a competing muscle group that is going to affect the main primary mover. So for example, if you're doing squats, it doesn't make sense to throw in movements that are going to tax the quads, the hamstrings, the glutes, or the lower back, because it will cause you too much grief going back to your squat afterwards. You'll be too tired and the muscles will be too burnt out before you get back to your next set of squats. Choose something like rows or curls, presses, or any sort of upper body pull like face pulls. They are going to be much more beneficial. Maybe even some cheeky ab work as well. As long as it's not too intensive and it doesn't cause a drop in performance on the squat itself. Okay, so choose non-competing movements. That's the main thing that's going to get you through. Number 2, try and choose movements that aren't too intensive. So there's no point, for example, if you're doing squats, to then try and throw bench press in as your active recovery. Yes, it's a non-competing muscle, but if you're trying to get strong in 2 different fields, and whilst you're resting from one, you're really pushing yourself in the other, what I found is that your performance levels will still drop. It gives you a nice conditioning effect, which is why that's good to throw in compound movements together in a conditioning circuit. But actually, when you're looking at trying to get stronger and build more muscle, it makes no sense trying to do something that is just as intensive. It won't allow you to recover properly, and when you get back to that main movement, you'll be out of breath, you'll be tired, you won't have recovered properly, and your performance will start to drop quicker, and you won't be able to hit those peaks that we want to hit. The last thing is we want to have fun, okay? I know that some of the things you're going to do, probably if it is rehab or mobility or stuff like that, they aren't very exciting. But the thing is to play around with it and to be creative and to allow yourself to get the opportunities in to get better. Okay, if you suck with your hip mobility or your shoulder mobility or your T-spine mobility and you really need to work on those things, rather than just putting it off for a long periods of time, you can throw it in as active recovery and it doesn't feel as boring or as tiresome, and you can find new exercises and stuff out there on the internet and throw them in as active recovery as long as it doesn't take away from the primary movement, and it can make you feel and look much better in the long run. So have fun with it, research, find new things that you want to work on, and you can try them out, add them as active recovery. It really doesn't matter. You don't have to do the Real Fit X program to get the benefits of the Real Fit X program. That's what we're trying to teach you right now with the active recovery thing. Now the 3 areas that you want to start looking at it, we'll start throwing in some exercises to give you guys some examples. The first one is weakness training or accessory work. So what you want to really think about is, obviously as we've gone through the 3 rules, you don't want to be competing, you don't want to be too intensive, and obviously you want to have a little bit of fun. So let's say that one of the exercises, the primary movement was a prone row with support. Okay, so the idea here is you go into your position, you rock out your rows. Let's say you've got to do between 8 and 10 repetitions on your rows. You rock out your rows from there. Once you've done your reps, you pop it down, and then you'll give yourself 30, 40, 60 seconds of active recovery, rocking out some tricep extensions. Okay, so this will give you a nice pump. It gives me nice accessories. It's going to work on those triceps. It's going to make me much better in my pressing movements. So I'm going to rock out my tricep extensions for 30 to 40 seconds probably, and then once I've done that, I can go back to my rows and then go again for my second set, knowing that I've recovered the muscles that are in the rowing positions, but obviously done something else, done some accessories and trying to fix weak spots from there. Again, try and think about that. The other thing is obviously this is not too intensive, it's isolation work. It's always best to try and think of isolation movements because they are going to be the things that you're not really going to do in the main parts of our sessions in RealFit X. Maybe your workout is the same, but it's not a lot of isolation in there. So this is a good time to throw that in there. So curls, kickbacks, things that aren't going to be too intensive from there. The other thing you want to think about, obviously, that it is fun. You are getting that pump work. So really try and think about how you can spice that up and get that work done. That is number one. That's accessory and weakness point training. The other thing you can do is mobility or technique work. So let's say the same thing, from the row. We do our rows. We rock out 8 to 10 reps on our rowing, and then for 40 seconds I've got a bit of rest. I'm going to decide I'm going to try and work on some squat depth because I struggle with my squat depth. So I'm going to do some sumo squats, go down to that bottom position and just sit upright and just push out with my elbows and my knees and just try and open up my hips. Okay, I'm trying to get mobile and sitting into that position and doing good. Okay, I feel good in this position. I'm starting to stretch out. I can do this every single time I do rows or an upper body movement, and I can really start drilling in my mobility within that movement there. Now, it may be a technique thing. It may be that you want to start working on some Olympic lifts, or you may want to start working on some overhead squatting, for example. So in between your rows again, you'd rock out your rows. And if you want to get better at your snatch, you obviously have to get better in your overhead squat positioning. So you might then start using a band or a dowel stick and then just start practicing your overhead squatting, start getting into those positions and start really trying to work on that positioning to work on your technique to improve it when you go into your main session. So that is number two, your technique mobility work. The third one and the final one, and this one really is for, if you pick up an injury, it's very, unfortunate, but it will happen every now and again. You will get injuries. This is the best way to ensure that you A, don't lose all your gains, B, don't get too stressed out, and C or three, generally you just keep moving on. The goal is that if you have an injured part of the body and you are then rehabbing it, once again, you might learn a few exercises out there that are going to help you out. Okay, so let's just say you injure your shoulder, okay, and you're just coming back and you're doing some rehab and your doctor said it's okay to exercise and he's giving you some exercises to do, then what you can say is, right, my workout, I'm going to have my primary movements, I'm going to have my stressful movements, and then I'm going to do some rehab stuff in between. Okay, so let's just say I wanted to do some lower body work. I didn't want to tax the shoulder out too much. I can't lift anything overhead, but it's okay to hold on to some weight. So I might do some sumo squats in this position here, rock out 8 to 10 repetitions, and then in between, I can then throw out my rehab work. Maybe I'm going to do some external rotation work and just work on my rotor cuffs and get that rehab work in there. It may be a bit more mobility work. You maybe have some doing pec stretches or lateral stretches, so I can then stretch out the muscles from there. Rehab can come in many different forms, and the opportunity to throw it into your workouts means that you can get on, keep getting stronger, keep building muscle, keep the metabolism high, but then also get that extra work in there as well, guys. So hopefully that's given you guys some ideas. Active recovery is one of the key techniques that we use in the RealFit X. If you're interested in learning a bit more, then you can click on the link in the description below. That will send you through to get a free copy of our PDF talking about active recovery. And there's also another link down there, which if you click on, you get a 7-day free trial with RealFit X online, and you can come and try it out for yourself and see what you think about the online coaching that we offer at RealFit. Hope you like that, guys. Just be awesome. Go get the day. I'll see you soon.